I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen a lot of wild things in my life, but nothing hits harder than the moment a billionaire. Yeah, a real billionaire, flat out collapsed on a sidewalk while a whole crowd just watched. People froze. Some stepped back like they didn't want to get involved. And then the tiniest person in the whole place, this little black girl with worn-out sneakers and a backpack almost bigger than her, sprinted straight toward him without a second's hesitation. Nobody knew who she was. Nobody knew why she cared. But what none of us realized, not even the billionaire, was that this little girl was about to turn his entire world inside out. Before we dive in, please subscribe for more stories like this, as it means the world to us, and comment your country. So the way this all starts, it was a regular Tuesday morning in the city. People rushing to work, coffee carts steaming, taxis honking like it's a sport. And right in the middle of all that noise was Victor Langford. Yeah, that Victor Langford, the guy with skyscrapers, jets, foundations, the whole 9 yards. He was walking out of a meeting downtown, surrounded by assistants, bodyguards, the usual entourage, until suddenly he wasn't. See, nobody knew he'd skipped breakfast, barely slept, pushed through 3 back-to-back meetings, and ignored the tightness in his chest all morning. So when he stepped off that curb, his face went pale, his knees buckled, and he dropped like someone had cut his strings. People gasped. Phones came out. But nobody stepped forward, and that's when she appeared. This tiny girl, 7 years old at most, comes darting through the crowd like she's running on pure instinct. She kneels beside him, checking his breathing the way someone twice her age would. Folks were stunned. Someone whispered, "Where's her mom?" Another person said, "Whose kid is this?" But she didn't hear anyone. She was too busy tapping his face, trying to wake him, saying, "Mister, please open your eyes, please." But here's the twist. This girl didn't just show up out of nowhere. She'd been watching him from across the street because she recognized him. Not because he was famous. Not because he was rich. Because she saw him almost every morning when she waited on the steps of the building where her mother worked as a housekeeper. She'd see him sweep through the lobby with that big, confident stride, surrounded by people who barely looked at her. But the one time she saw him smile, really smile, was the day he held the elevator for a delivery guy who was running late. That moment stuck with her. Don't ask me why. Kids notice the stuff adults ignore. So when she saw him fall, she didn't freeze. She ran. Within seconds, she was calling out to the crowd, "Somebody call 911." And her voice, small but sharp, forced people into action. A woman dialed emergency services. A man dropped to his knees and asked how he could help. But the girl stayed right there, holding Victor's hand like she'd known him her whole life. By the time paramedics arrived, she was shaking but still there, refusing to let go. When they loaded him into the ambulance, one of the medics asked her who she was. And the little girl just whispered, "Nobody. I just didn't want him to die." They drove off, and she just stood there on the sidewalk, hands trembling, backpack slipping off her shoulder. She walked home quietly, not knowing that her life had just taken a massive turn. Fast forward to the hospital. Hours pass. Victor wakes up, confused, hooked to monitors, his assistant waiting by the bed. And the very first thing he asks is, "Who was that little girl?" The assistant shrugs, because honestly, nobody got her name. She disappeared before anyone could thank her. But Victor, he wasn't the kind of guy who let something like that go. He had his team pull the street camera footage. They zoomed in on her face, her old shoes, her little blue jacket with the peeling cartoon sticker on the back. They widened the search. They traced the building she'd been sitting in front of. And eventually, they figured out where she lived. Now here's where it gets wild. When they showed up at her apartment, a tiny two-bedroom tucked above a laundromat, her mother nearly fainted, because standing in her doorway was Victor Langford himself, cleaned up and alive. And her mother, she wasn't just any maid. She worked for him for years. She cleaned his penthouse every week. She made sure every corner sparkled before his guests arrived. She ironed his suits. She washed dishes after his parties. She was invisible in a place she kept shining. But her daughter, the little girl who saved him, she'd never met him directly. She always waited downstairs, coloring or doing homework, or just watching the elevators go up and down, wondering what kind of people lived behind those fancy doors. So when Victor walked into their apartment, he immediately recognized her. Same shoes, same backpack. But up close, he could see something the camera didn't capture. This kid had a quiet strength in her eyes. She wasn't scared, just curious. Victor knelt down and said, "Do you know you saved my life today?" She shrugged, almost embarrassed. "I just did what my mom taught me, help people." And man, you could feel the air in that room get thick. Her mom covered her face, crying quietly. Victor didn't just thank her. He offered something bigger. Something life-changing. He paid off all her mother's debts on the spot. He offered her a better job, with full benefits, better pay, and actual respect. But for the girl, he asked what she wanted. And this is the part that breaks you a little. She didn't ask for toys, or money, or anything you'd expect a kid to want. She just said, "I want my mom to rest sometimes. She works too much." That hit him harder than the heart attack. Within a week, he set up a full scholarship fund in her name, a private tutor, a healthcare plan for her mother, and he made sure they moved out of that cramped apartment into a safe, comfortable place closer to good schools. But here's what makes this story different. He didn't just give them gifts and walk away. He stayed in touch. He checked in. He invited them to dinners. Slowly, this little girl and her mother became part of his life, not out of guilt, but out of genuine gratitude and respect. And every time he walked into his penthouse and saw her backpack by the couch, or her tiny sneakers by the door, he remembered that life doesn't care how rich you are. Sometimes the person who saves you is the one the world overlooks. The billionaire, the housekeeper, and the little girl, 3 lives woven together by one moment on a random Tuesday morning. And that's the thing, heroes don't always look like the movies. Sometimes they're 7 years old, wearing worn-out shoes, carrying a backpack full of crayons, and running toward danger when everyone else steps back. If you felt something in this story, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment your country so we know where our global family is tuning in from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.